Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today's video brings you, I almost dropped my books, another book haul because I cannot be stopped, and when I find cool books at the bookshop that I work at, especially when people bring in books to sell secondhand, I am usually the one who's pricing them and putting them on the shelves, so I get first picks of everything. And I often find really interesting books that I would otherwise probably not have found when looking through other people's books. So, I have 5 books here that I recently acquired, and I'm going to give you a quick rundown of them all. The first one is At the Same Time by Susan Sontag, if you're German, Sontag if you're not. It is 16 essays. It says here, the 16 essays gathered here represent the last pieces written by Susan Sontag in the years before her death in 2004. Reflecting on literature, photography and art, post-9/11 America and political activism, these essays encompass the themes that dominated Sontag's life and work, revealing why she remains one of the 20th century's preeminent writers and thinkers. And then the Daily Telegraph says, it reads like a greatest hits album. I'm very happy to add this to my collection. Then next I have The Vagina Monologues by Eve Ensler, with a foreword by Gloria Steinem. I've had this book on my want-to-read list for many years, and when I saw it in the box of books that were brought to the bookshop, I immediately picked it up and put it aside because I knew I had to have it. Because it's an important book that everybody should read, not only people who have a vagina. It's probably even more important for people who don't have a vagina to read this book, but let me not go down that rabbit hole. Anyway, a poignant and hilarious tour of the last frontier, the ultimate forbidden zone, The Vagina Monologues is a celebration of female sexuality in all its complexity and mystery. Hailed as the Bible for a new generation of women, it has been performed in cities and colleges throughout the world and has inspired a dynamic grassroots movement, V-Day, to stop violence against women. Witty and irreverent, compassionate and wise, Eve Ensler's award-winning masterpiece gives voice to real women's deepest fantasies and fears, guaranteeing that no one who reads it will ever look at a woman's body or think of sex in quite the same way again. And what I find most interesting is that on the back there is a blurb by Gillian Anderson. I will read it to you. Eve Ensler is the Pied Piper. She is leading women and the world to a different consciousness of the essence of women. And the reason why I say this is interesting is because Gillian Anderson has recently published a book, although nobody knows which part of the book she wrote. That maybe sounds a little bit confusing, but I will explain. It is a compilation of 80, I think, letters that were sent in by women telling their sexual fantasies, and Gillian Anderson's is one of them, but everybody in the book is anonymous, and it was based on a book that was published. I don't remember when the first book was published, but it was based on a book published earlier, and so Gillian Anderson has decided to make a new updated version with, I think it's 80 women's sexual fantasies included in the book. And I find it very interesting that she blurbed the back of this book and then went on to compile and write a book about sexual fantasies. So there's a little tidbit of information if you wanted it. If you don't, you have it now anyway. Then the next book I have is a book I have never heard of or seen in my life, and an author I've never heard of or seen. But the back blurb synopsis made it sound so intriguing to me, and also the front cover is just stunning, so I knew I had to pick it up. It is Nightwood by Juna Barnes. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, but I think it's pronounced Juna Barnes. And I mean, just look at this cover. Just look at this most fantastic, really weird and wacky painting on the front cover. It also has an introduction by T.S. Eliot. This remarkable poetic novel about the life of Americans and Europeans in Paris in the 1920s is now recognized as a minor masterpiece. In his introduction, T.S. Eliot praised Knightwood for, and then in quotation marks, the great achievement of a style, the beauty of phrasing, the brilliance of wit and characterization, and a quantity of horror and doom very nearly related to that of an Elizabethan tragedy. And if that doesn't tell you all you need to know, I don't know if they actually put a synopsis of this book. No. So literally the only thing that made me interested in this is the blurb by T.S. Eliot on the back and the front cover. But Edward Muir, for the listener, also said, "It seems to me an undeniable work of genius, and the genius is not intermittent, but with very few lapses, constant throughout, and at the same time of unusual intensity, the extraordinary verbal beauty of this book, drawn with brilliant wit and force." And there's, if you care to know, there's a picture of Juna Barnes on the back. A side-on picture of her, nonetheless, but anyway. So, I'm hoping that Juna Barnes' writing is going to be similar to Evelyn Waugh's writing, because I really enjoy his writing. And I would like to find another author whose writing is of a similar style, so that I can read more. I hope she published more than just this book, but I'm assuming she did. So, I'm very excited about this one. Then next up I have 2 biographies. And I think they're both biographies. I don't think any of them... I actually lie to you. This one is not a biography. It just looks like one. This is Babel, or Babel, however you want to pronounce it, by Patti Smith. And this is an incredibly old, well, maybe not old, but an incredibly battered copy. There she is on stage, rocking out with the guitar. And it is a collection of things. Poems, really long form poems, prose. I don't know if there are any essays in here. Pictures of her, all categorized in different sections. And the one that I keep opening the book on for some strange reason is a poem entitled, if you can see this hopefully, it's titled Georgia O'Keeffe. And I keep, every time I have opened this book and flicked through it, I've opened the book on Georgia O'Keeffe's poem, or the poem about Georgia O'Keeffe. And I think it's quite funny. I will not read it to you, but if you are interested, you can just Google it and read it for yourselves. But I'm so intrigued. I've never read anything by Patti Smith, and I don't really know that much about her, but I know she was a very interesting lady, and I want to read some things that she's written. So, there we have it. And then the last one is in fact a biography, and it is The Death and Life of Sylvia Plath by Ronald Hayman. I will not read you the synopsis because it is incredibly long. It is the length of this flap, and then it continues on the back flap all the way to the bottom. So it's a very long synopsis, but essentially it is about Sylvia Plath's life, and about her death, and about her... My cat has decided to join us. Do you want to come up on the bed, kitty? Come here. There we go. There we go. It is about her... It focuses a lot on her suicidal tendencies and her suicide attempts, I think, from what I've read on the synopsis. And it sort of focuses a lot on whether or not there was any way of stopping her death. If it was just inevitable that she would always, that she was destined to die young. And all of those things, and also her marriage with her husband, who was not the greatest person, and lots of other things. But Anyway, I still have never... Okay, I lied to you. I was going to say I still haven't read anything by Sylvia Plath, but that's not true. I read her collection Crossing the Water last year, and I absolutely loved it. And I have the bell jar on my bookshelf. I just need to get around to reading it. And now I have this book about her death and life. So, I'm very happy to have it. And with that, I bring you to the end of my book haul. I for a moment forgot what I was going to say. I was going to say my book collection, but that's not the truth. It is just the end of my book haul. I went to the city recently. I actually just got back this afternoon, and I was going to go to a bookshop, and I was going to go and buy more books, but then we didn't end up having time. And so I didn't go to a bookshop and spend even more money on books, which my bookshelf is happy about because I just reorganized it and already there's not enough space for all of the books I own. And now I've just gone and bought 5 more. So I better start reading them books so that I can get rid of some. And actually the one that I'm reading currently, I think I'm going to be giving away once I finished it. Because although it's a good book, I don't think I'll ever want to read it again, and I don't think I want to keep it for reference. So I think I'm going to be giving it to the bookshop that I work at. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I introduced you to some new and exciting authors that you maybe have never heard of, like me. Thank you for being here. I will see you all again next week with another video. Cheers.